special thank you to Pastor Connor and the members of the Antioch Baptist Church, and to also my fellow warriors of the Essence of Hope Breast Cancer Association. I am here this morning to celebrate in praise and worship with the Essence of Hope Breast Cancer Association, and I've been asked to share my story with you. So in 2018, at the tender age of 30, I was at home in February, and I was recovering from a broken ankle. And while at home, let me back up a little bit. I am from the island of Nevis, but I currently reside here on St. Kitts. So I was at home in Nevis with my family recovering. And I was laying down one day and I felt this discomfort. And I was like, what is that? And I touched myself. And when I touched myself, I felt something hard. And I became scared, concerned, what is that? Because I had never felt anything like that before. My foot was in a cast, and I decided when I go to the doctor to remove my cast, then I'll get my breast checked as well. And so I did that. 2 different doctors, but for me, who could hardly walk, it was one day of outing for me, and that's what I chose. And initially, I got checked out, and the doctors didn't give me anything to worry about. They said to me that, Camara, they examined me. It's probably fibrocystic, and I don't know how many of you have heard that term, but what I found out is that as females, we sometimes develop lumps in our breasts, and I've never had one before up to that point, and that's when I discovered my first one. And so what it meant was that it was probably not cancerous. And the doctors, they often monitor lumps in your breast to see whether it develops into something that is cancerous or non-cancerous. About a month later, so in March, I still had the discomfort. And even though the doctor asked me to give it time up to 6 months, something did not feel right. And so I was there with the discomfort, and no matter how I turned, it just felt uncomfortable. And so I went to get a second opinion, and that doctor then sent me for the ultrasound. And then from the ultrasound, they recommended a biopsy. And up to that point, when I did the ultrasound, they still didn't give me anything to worry about. And I like to say, maybe it is the medical practitioner's way of not scaring you. However, I appreciate the fact that they sent me for a biopsy. And when they completed the biopsy and the results came back cancerous, my doctors were shocked. So at age 30, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I remember that day when I went to the doctor to get the results. And I'm not somebody who is good with dates. I forget birthdays, I forget important things, but I will never forget the day I had the biopsy, March 15th, 2018, and I got the results on the 21st. Those are things that I would always remember because that moment changed my life. And on that day when I went to the doctor to get the results, honestly, I didn't feel concerned or that I was going to hear any bad news. And because my family members had taken off so much time before accompanying me to the doctor with my foot, now that day I told them, man, I got this. I'm going to go by myself. My cast was off, I was wearing a walking boot, my friend took me to the doctor and I went. When I got to the doctor and it was my turn, I went in and the doctor there telling me, Camara, we did this biopsy and this is why we do that. And all of the reasons, and in my mind, why is he telling me all of this? Get to the point. And in the end, he told me that it came back cancerous. And I will tell you, my life flashed before me. And while I had heard generally about breast cancer, I knew nothing about cancer. I knew nothing about breast cancer. A part of me felt like, oh my, am I going to die soon? I had not lived my best life as yet. What do I do? Where do I turn? Who do I turn to? I was just scared. And I cried. Now that day, the doctor was in St. Kitts. I came to St. Kitts to see the doctor. And I had to journey back to Nevis because I was still on leave with my uncle. And going over on the ferry, there was a lady who sat next to me. And that lady was going through a very difficult time. She had just lost her dad, and we knew each other, or we know each other. And she wanted someone to talk to vent. And let me tell you, I was there barely holding on because I had just received some life-changing news. And I didn't want to be crying on the ferry going up for everybody to be asking me, what's the matter with you? In fact, Mr. Prentice, who was my significant other then, who is my husband now, I remember he calling me after my appointment and he was asking, well, how did it go? And I avoided the question for as long as I could until I got over, because I needed to get back over in one piece. And that is, it's later that evening that I broke down. And so on the ferry, this lady talking to me, and I'm like, Camara, she's looking to you for support. Hold yourself together and support this lady until we get there. I know it is hard for you right now, but hold it together. And I did just that. Now, when I got to Nevis and in the evening reflecting on my day, what was said to me, the doctor also went through the options with me. But I'll tell you the honest truth. When you receive news like that, you hear nothing else. It's like you don't understand anything else. And I consider myself a fairly smart and intelligent young lady. But I'm telling you, I felt dumb, mute in the moment. I couldn't understand or process anything else. But one thing I remembered was that, Camara, it seems to be early and we can beat this. And I held on to that. And I started to do my research and all of that. And, you know, my medical team, they really tried hard to ensure that I had the proper information and care, as well as my family. And so the very next day, we started planning my next steps, which was to get all the necessary blood work and scans done. It was a process. But I meant that I was going to fight. Some of you may know me, because last year, I recorded my breast cancer journey. And it went viral, as we would say. And so many persons have reached out to me. And I was really inspired by someone to record it. Yesterday evening, in preparing for this session this morning, I rewatched my recording. And I didn't actually count, but I noted the amount of times I said the words, I was scared. And I was truly scared when I received the diagnosis. And even when I was going through that journey, several times I felt scared. Now, as I said, the doctor gave me the different options in terms of dealing with it and the treatment plan. Now, I am very out there with my story, so I'll share it with you. I chose to have a double mastectomy. What that means? I chose to remove my breast. Why? Initially, fear of reoccurrence. I told myself that is the golden standard, and I do not want to find myself back in this same place 1, 2, 3, or even 10 years after. And so I chose to remove both. In terms of surgery and treatment, I traveled to the US shortly after to have surgery and treatment, and that's where I had the surgery done. I remember preparing for surgery, and I don't know if Quincy remembers. I pray a lot, and I believe in God. But I have a cousin who is a prayer warrior, and I'm certain she's tuned in this morning via the Facebook page because they support me in everything that I do. And I remember I was scared because the doctors told me I was going to be in surgery for 3 hours. I was like, 3 hours? What will they be doing all that time? You know? But I forced myself to think the best and of the best outcome. Before they took me to theater, I said, "Doctor, do you mind if I call my cousin, please?" And I called my cousin to pray on the phone with me before I went into surgery. I said my own prayer, but for me it felt good, you know, for me to reach out to someone else to pray with me through that as I was about to go through something very difficult. So I had surgery, I went through chemotherapy, and it was all very difficult, a painful process. There were times I felt low, but one thing that I did is that I encouraged myself to remain positive. Camara, you are going to get through this. As I said, I prayed a lot, and I will tell you, inside of me, I felt a shift. I knew that God was with me when I went through every single thing that I went through, and that I am still going through today because I still go through things, but I put my best foot forward. And so I honestly felt that he was holding my hands through everything. My oncologist prescribed 8 rounds of chemotherapy. After the 5th one, I was hospitalized in the US. And that's because my temperature became very high, and you know, it is something they ask you to monitor. And because it happened 2 nights consecutively, we went to the emergency room. And they did a number of tests and monitored me to ensure I wasn't developing an infection. And I was so pleased. 6th treatment, after the 6th chemo treatment, I developed an allergic reaction. And so they had to stop me. Now, I was scared. You sure? You prescribed 8, but I'm stopping at 6. And they assured me, you know, Camara, it's okay. It was caught at an early stage, and based on research and so on, you will be okay. And while mine was caught at an early stage, I am aware that every single woman and even man who has gone through this journey, they may not have been as fortunate as me, where it was caught at an early stage. But one thing I will tell you is to never give up the fight. As I sat there this morning and I was singing, I love music, by the way. I can't sing, so I won't try to sing the words. But I was singing, Waymaker, Miracle Worker, what does it say? Exactly. And there is a God. And so no matter what you're going through, no matter the diagnosis, it doesn't have to be breast cancer. It could be anything. It doesn't have to be stage 1. It could be an advanced stage. It is important that you believe and trust in God, because miracles do happen. And when I went through this journey, I honestly felt that my faith got stronger.
Amen.
As I said to you, I felt a shift, and I am a different person. One of the things that I did was, I am generally a very private person. And as I said, I got the diagnosis in March 2021, and I left the island the end of March and had surgery in April. All that time, surgery, more than one surgery, because I also had to go back to put a port in. And I felt tired. I did. I felt tired of everything, the amount of decisions that I had to make, the amount of doctor visits, the amount of things I had to go through. I even told my aunt one day, I feel like I need a personal assistant. It's tiring, but you cannot give up. You cannot give up. And so support is very, very, very important. One of the things I did before I left the Federation, I told a few persons, my very, very close friends and family members, because I would want them to know if I'm going through something like that. And they did support me through it. But I made it clear and asked them, can you keep this to yourself, please? Now, we all know that every friend has a friend. But I am telling you and asking you and begging you that if somebody is going through something so serious, so devastating, and they share it with you, please keep it to yourself and support them through it. There are other persons who, even when I was overseas, who heard about my case, and instead of reaching out to me in a caring way, reached out to say, I don't know when last I see you. Now come straight and say, Camara, I heard you may be going through something, and if it is, I am praying for you. And I said this morning because the way we approach things is important, and it can make a difference. So instead of meeting Jane and saying, you know, here, Jackie got cancer, you reach out to Jackie. Jackie, I am not sure, I heard something, I am not sure if it is true. But if it is true, I am here to support you. Is there anything that I can do? Now, if it is, you've received such a diagnosis, sharing your story is not a crime. There is no shame in sharing your story. Things don't happen to us because we did something. It can happen to anyone. Now, as I said, I am generally a very private person. And it was August 31st, 2018 that I took to Facebook. I wrote a long epistle. That's not me usually, if you know me. I wrote a long epistle because I was reflecting on my life, and it was a fight. And I was so thankful to celebrate another birthday, August 31st, that I just had to share my story, and that's what I did. And since then, I have not looked back. I have been supporting woman after woman after woman, association after association and association, because we all need each other. And so I am encouraging you that if you receive a diagnosis, speak to someone. It could be your pastor, it could be a member of the Essence of Hope, another group, a family member, someone you trust. It is very difficult to fight this fight alone. You need somebody. You need somebody. And you are going to experience many emotions. But let your faith be bigger than your fear. And so I am encouraging you this morning to reach out to someone and share. Let us help you. I'm going to wrap up by speaking about Sister Pam. Now, when I returned later in 2018, in September 2018, because I spent some time in the US, the members of the group would know. I used to work at the St. Kitts Tourism Authority. I was the human resource manager there. Yes, Pam. And we support, you know, I'm not there anymore, but the annual walk is something that we do. And I did the walk up to 2017. I would place the order. You know, we would have the shirts picked up and all of that. And 2018, when I returned, Pam was the one who delivered the shirts to my office. And that's when we first officially met. I know she didn't remember, but I'll remind her. And in that moment, I learned more about the Essence of Hope Cancer Association. And they do an excellent job. When I listened to Sister Pam speaking about, yeah, I go to chemo with people, I be their chemo buddy, and all of that, I was so impressed. We had a very good conversation. So help is available. You don't have to fight alone, and you don't have to suffer in silence. And so reach out to someone. But most of all, let your faith be bigger than your fear. Thank you.